Good. Okay, so I start the recording now, and I observe that the first reason to unify 1A and 1B is that it has the same quantifier. And often quantifiers are taken to be DPs or determiners. And so in 1B, it seems that there is a simple structure with a determiner just taking the noun phrase, and that this can be extended to 1A by just saying that the quantifier has its own independent referent, and that the PP is in the complement of the quantifier embedding a definite DP. Then in languages, in very few languages, as a matter of fact, very few, the Gallo-Romance dialects, those Gallo-Romance dialects that we have seen, you know, with this very, well, Gallo-Romance languages, let's say, not dialects, varieties, which include Italian and French. The Gallo-Romance of Italian is only the Northern Italian dialects, but this Gallo-Romance feature that we find in 1C, which is called the partitive determiner, this one, has been introduced in the standard language. So also the speakers in Southern Italy can use it when they speak Italian, okay? And we have seen that in the dialects of the Southern Italian dialects, and also some Central Italian dialects don't use it at all, okay? So, but let's say there is this phenomenon in Italian that can be reduced to this preposition, okay? So delle in 1C has somehow an indefinite meaning, okay? And it is historically diachronically proved that it derives from the partitive meaning that we find in this PP here, okay? So the idea would be, well, the idea is that when I say I ate of this meat, ho mangiato di questa carne, since we are Easter time, in the Italian version of the Last Supper, we say se mangerete di questa carne, okay? And of course it is part of this meat, right? So there is a partitivity interpretation in this use of di questa carne, and in fact you find the typical feature of partitive, which is definiteness, okay? You will see that a distinction between 1A and 1B is the fact that in 1A the preposition embeds a definite DP. And you know that definiteness is next to deixis, right? A deictic element, these girls, often occurs in definite context, in the context where I require definiteness, okay? In fact, I can substitute the definite nominal expression in 1A, le ragazze, with a deictic expression, queste ragazze, right? I can say alcune di queste ragazze, and it would be perfect. So you see, mangiare di questa carne o fare di queste cose, which is still possible in Italian, is the missing link between this construction, which I call the partitive construction, and this, which is maybe not even a construction, which is a nominal expression. And we will see that it does not have partitive interpretation, but it only has indefinite interpretation. Okay? But now actually, I didn't prepare this link, but while I was talking, I thought it is crucial that indefiniteness is related to 1b, right? That's the difference between alcune ragazze, which could be totally, which may be indefinite, although in Italian plural alcune is specific. Ho visto alcune ragazze. No, it could be indefinite. Ho visto alcune ragazze. It could mean I saw Mary, Jane, and Teresa, but it could also mean I saw a small number of girls and I don't know who they are. Okay, so it could be specific and non-specific. Okay, and this is the same interpretations, the same ambiguity that we can find on Ho visto delle ragazze. Okay, or delle ragazze sono arrivate, or sono arrivate delle ragazze. Sono arrivate delle ragazze could either be I know who the girls are, sono arrivate delle ragazze, that is Mary, blah, 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 or I just know that a small number, a small quantity of, or indefinite quantity of girls have arrived, okay? And then the fourth portion, the fourth construction that can be, that may be interesting to unify is the is this element ne, which is an element that again, hi Elena, again is a property of a very small number of languages, notably again Gallo-Romance languages, but also other Romance languages. So for example, all Southern Italian dialects have a widespread use of ne. It would be interesting to study it. Because Sicilian, for example, uses ne a lot, because ne not only can resume the indefinite complement of a quantifier, as in one of the two versions of 1D, ne sono arrivate alcune, but it could also resume a bare noun, an indefinite noun with no determiner. Ne sono arrivate. And this, I think, makes a difference, for example, between Southern Italian dialects or Standard Italian and my own dialect. I don't say ne sono arrivate in my colloquial Italian and in my dialect. Okay, so you see, ne, even if ne seems to be part of this larger partitivity story, if we look at the diatopic. Do you understand the term diatopic? I'm not seeing all of you. I don't see Shamira. Let me, why I don't? Ah, yeah, now I see everybody. Marta, Julia. No, I don't see Shamira. Shamira, do you have your, no, sure, I see everybody. So do you understand diatopic? Everybody who wants to an explanation of what diatopic is? Good, Julia, thank you. Marta, could you give an explanation of what diatopic means?
Diatopic means it's the variation, the geographical variation of a language, if I am correct.
Fine.
Fine.
It's a difficult word for a simple thing. Dia, yes. It's like diagram, right? It means through, and topic means places. So it's the variation across the places, okay? And we have talked about diatopic variation in the previous papers, in the papers that we have seen earlier. It's the variation that we find, for example, even from Murano from the Venetian spoken in Murano and the Venetian spoken in Fondamente Nove. I've been told they have different vowels, okay? And they can immediately spot if somebody has learned their Venetian in Murano from, okay, and vice versa. I was told by my wine seller, that she finds the Murano people very strange because they have an open or a closed O, I don't remember. Okay, so the diatopic variation, if we look at Gallo-Romance or let's say Central Romance in Italian and French all together, we may think that the two phenomena in 1A and B, okay, which are common in very many languages, and I'm sorry that your colleagues who speak Turkic languages are not present, because I think that not all languages have the same type of difference that we find in 1A and 1B. So all languages are quantifiers. All languages can express partitivity, so this part-whole relation, the one relation that we have shown here in this set and subset, but and then we have our languages that have the partitive determiner, often called partitive article, and the partitive clitic, also called quantitative clitic, okay, which can resume both the complement of the quantitative construction and the indefinite of just the verb. So the temptation is, the phenomenon is universal. In our languages, the four constructions all can be reduced to the same analysis. Okay? Any questions on this? Okay, now I will go, I'm not sure this system is so good. So, okay, clear all drawings. Okay, and now I want to go down. Okay. So in 2, I summarize the properties, the formal and semantic properties that may suggest unification. Basically, we see genitive morphology through, right? We see a form ne, which is also declitic that resumes a possessor, or it resumes a genitive assigned by a verb. So I'm talking of this, parlo di questo, we say ne parlo. So it's very suggestive of resuming the genitive VPP, which is the partitive portion of the partitive construction in 1A. Then we have this formal identity of D plus a determiner, which is any definite determiner in 1A, okay? And it's obligatorily the definite determiner in 1C, but notably with no definite interpretation. But then if we think of the other construction, mangiare di questa carne, eat of this meat, that could be the link. So we could say it's a partitive PP with a definite portion, and then we have to explain why sometimes the definite portion doesn't have this interpretation in 1C, but still we could say it's the same structure. We find quantifiers in 1A, in 1B, and in one reading on 1D with the clitic, so where the quantifier is not obligatory, but may occur. And then when it occurs, we have to decide whether the ne resumes the prepositional complement of the quantifier in 1A, or the indefinite complement of the quantifier, which is certainly indefinite in 1B, and then we can claim that it's also present in 1A, so one has to discuss whether ne resumes only the indefinite or also the definite partitive. And then we have indefinite interpretation of a different type. In 1B, alcune ragazze, some girls, and in 1C, delle ragazze. In some contexts, and this is again very suggestive of unification, alcune ragazze and delle ragazze are semantically equivalent. Okay. Then I have added a section which I always encourage you to add, which is aims and structure of the paper. It could even be 2 sections if you have a lot of aims and a lot and you want to discuss the structure, but at least unify. And in the aims, you see, I give now somehow I present again an abstract of the topics that an overview of the topics of the whole paper, not just 2. Then I have this terminological paragraph, which is very important in this respect. You don't always need to have it, but it's very important here because partitive is a larger term. Often these things are called partitive this, partitive that, partitive clitic, partitive article, partitive construction, partitive quantifier, etc. So since I want to distinguish all these things, I have to give a different name. And if you want to help me, you reread the paper when you are doing the exercise. I prepared an exercise that obliges you to go through the first part, through section 2. I didn't want to ruin your Easter vacations, so I didn't make the same exercise for section 3, but you could make it yourself if you're interested, if you want, for example, to do your project on this topic. Okay, while you are reading the paper, please go through and check whether I was really consistent in using these terms, because sometimes I noted in the previous version, I was not consistent. Okay, so good. Then I have some larger footnotes. For example, I say I want to use partitive determiner and not partitive article because I don't believe it is an article or it is just an article. Okay, but and then of course I quote work, which you already know. Okay, then I present the protocol methodology, which is, let's say, my own invention, and I want to apply it again and again, and so I want to give it a theoretical status and not just, I'm saying these are not just tables, there should be a thought at the back of the tables. I'm not very satisfied with these protocols because they never I was not good enough to cluster properties together, because in my view, a good protocol should cluster properties together so that everything gets plus or minuses in the same way, and to show that two things are actually the same, or they share a property that make them behave in the same way as regards that. Then the plus, minuses, and zeros, actually the zeros probably are the same as in the first version, but the plus and minuses are slightly different because I have introduced some extra examples and some extra thoughts. Okay. Now, I already in the first paper, I talked about French a lot, mentioning French examples, and sometimes also only mentioning this has already been said for French, and I'm, giving the data for Italian, which is not obvious, not necessarily. French, de, du, de la, bear, de, behave differently from Italian di plus article. Okay, and if some of you is interested, there is a huge literature on French. Of course, it could be an MA thesis. Okay, but it would be very, very interesting to apply both the protocols for the indefiniteness of the previous paper and these protocols in a parallel fashion with French and Italian, and to really see the differences. And there are lots of differences that are in the semantics of the partitive determiner, which really have to be pinned down yet. Okay. So in 4A, we see that in French has the same partitive construction as in Italian. I have two quantifiers. One is plusieurs, with numeros, which behaves like Italian alcune, although it means more than just some, okay, it means many, or it behaves like Italian molte. And again, beaucoup means, again, the same as plusieurs, but beaucoup is uninflected. Okay, beaucoup is like an adverbial. It's like molto, not like molte. And although French Gallo-Romance, the real Gallo-Romance, that is French, the Romance spoken by the Gauls, has done away with lots of vowels and endings. Okay, so vowels at the end of the word are not pronounced. So we would pronounce de, fille. Fille, you don't even hear the E. You don't hear the S, which is the marker of plural. And maybe has consequences on the vowel, so you pronounce de instead of de. Okay, difficult for us, but obvious for French-speaking native speakers. But anyway, all the morphology is very reduced. Okay, so this is a basic difference between French and Italian. And what is interesting is that beaucoup is not inflected at all, so you don't have beaucoup, okay, to say molta, or beaucoup with es to say molte. Okay, it's equivalent to molto. And if you know Slavic languages, you are not surprised, because in Slavic languages, mnogo, much, can also embed plural, masculine and feminine nouns. Okay, exactly like beaucoup in 4B, because in 4B you see that beaucoup and plusieurs behave differently. Beaucoup needs to have, let me annotate, but I wanted to have a red. Let me see if I can have a red. Okay, I don't find, maybe format there. Okay, so you see, this de is very interestingly similar to this de. Okay, and so the fact that it is missing here with plusieurs, in a generative perspective, I mentioned Milner, who has a beautiful book, which I bought in, if you can see it, in 1991, while I was writing my thesis, and I was spending a study time. I think I gave a talk in Paris on this. So I found I could buy, which was already very rare, this volume, which is published in 1978. Yeah, okay. It's a volume that has everything in there. So if you want to compare French with Italian, I think, and if you can buy it, maybe used, or it's a beautiful volume, has a lot of data, and it has a lot of insights, because even if Milner tries to unify, he makes a unification, but noting differences, okay? So it's really insightful. So he says, well, this de is obligatory. And so in a generativist perspective, you can imagine that there is a zero de, right? They were starting to use zero categories. Also in the quantitative construction with plusieurs. And you see, if we start saying that the quantitative construction with beaucoup and with plusieurs, after all, they are the same construction, I myself would like to say that they are to be unified, okay? I may ask you, how do you think I can unify it? Well, think about it, okay? We can say that later. Okay, so if we want to unify beaucoup and plusieurs in 4B and B prime, then why not unifying 4A and 4B with beaucoup? You know, after all, there the only difference is the definiteness feature on on the partitive, okay? But that could be the difference that gives you a different semantics, okay? And then with French, you have they used even more extensively than in Italian, because in French, there is basically no bare noun, no zero article. So in French, you don't have the choice of saying ho visto ragazze, ho visto delle ragazze. In French, you can only say j'ai vu des filles. And that de has the S, which looks like the definite article. So it's the same inflection as up here, but it can be totally indefinite, okay? And then je n'ai vu beaucoup, je n'ai vu plusieurs is exactly like Italian. So if we look at French, we may have and if we want to say, well, Italian and French are two Gallo-Romance varieties after all, so we want to treat them in the same way, okay? We can think of okay, I have to delete everything. We can think of of unifying Italian and French in a protocol. Oh yeah, and then I added 2 examples because in for D, at least in my understanding of Italian, it can only be indefinite. But if you consider some cases like those in 5, then you may have, even in Italian, you may say, well, sometimes un in French and ne in Italian can resume the definite partitive. So look at 5, we have left dislocated the definite partitive, means dei libri di Zola ne ho letti 2. Here the quantifier is obligatory. Dei libri di Zola ne ho letti. In Italian is not very good. I don't know about French, but des livres de Zola, j'en ai lu 2. It means dei livri di Zola. Ho letto 2 dei libri di Zola, right? So it seems that on resumes the definite partitive, which has been left dislocated. And you know from general linguistics too, in the 3rd year of the Laurea Triennale, if you have done your Laurea Triennale with us, that left dislocation and clitic resumption is a constituency test. So we are using the clitic, we call it substitution with a clitic, right? So we say this element, which we have moved out, not only it is a constituent, but it corresponds to one category, which is the category of the clitic, okay? And in this case, the category would be prepositional phrase, because of the books of Zola is certainly a prepositional phrase. And then look at the 5b, which is very subtle. Can you understand 5b, even if you don't know French? Ils ont attrapé 10 lions mardi. They caught 10 lions on Tuesday. Mercredi, ils en ont tué 5. On Wednesday, they killed 5. And here, Milner notices that it's ambiguous whether they have killed 5 of the 10 lions that they have caught, Or they caught 10 lions on Tuesday and they killed 5 other lions on Wednesday. For those of you who are Italian native speakers, what do you think for Italian?
It's still ambiguous in Italian.
What about, what do the others think? Julia, you are German, right? You speak German? What is your feeling about these examples? And when you think of what they mean in German, how would you translate?
5b.
So, Sie haben, also.
Wir haben 10 von den Löwen. You know?
So the first part.
Yes.
On Tuesday, what do you say? Am Dienstag.
Am Dienstag.
Haben Sie
10 von den Löwen gefangen?
No. 10 lions, 10 lions.
Ja, 10.
10 Löwen, not 10
10
Löwen, okay? It's just 10. B, the first line is certainly 10 Löwen.
Yeah.
Okay? And then Mittwoch haben Sie
5 getötet.
5 getötet. That is one possibility. Can 5 getötet mean 5 davon getötet? Is it ambiguous? If you don't add davon.
I'd say so.
No, it's not ambiguous.
So let's hear the two Germans.
No, for me it's not ambiguous. Raphael, and for you?
I would say that it's ambiguous. Am Dienstag haben sie 10 Löwen gefangen. Am Mittwoch haben sie 5 getötet.
Ja, von den Löwen ist doch klar, auf was sich das bezieht.
No, then it is ambiguous also for you, Julia, because I think it cannot only mean 5 davon. It can also mean
5 andere.
Andere 5. 5 more. How do you say? 5.
Yes, I understand. 5 more, 5 other lions.
5 mehr. Sie haben, also, Dienstag is Thursday, no. Thursday, right? Am Dienstag, haben sie 10 Löwen
getötet.
Gefangen.
Gefangen. Am Mittwoch haben sie 5 getötet. Are the 5 more, or could the 5 be 5 from the 10?
Of the 10 for me.
You only want from the 10, even if you don't have that phone. No.
Not him too. To me, it's ambiguous.
No, for me, it's not ambiguous.
Okay. But it's only partitively ambiguous. Okay. So here we can say the ambiguity is there, even if you don't have ne. Okay. You don't have eclectic ne, yes, but it's still ambiguous. The discourse has set some lions, and then how you pick your 5 lions comes from the discourse. Okay. And now one can, of course, fight whether it's just a matter of discourse. So it's there at the back of our minds where what lions are relevant, out of which to pick our, indefinite 5 lions, or whether there is a partitive PP which is projected but silent in the structure. Okay? So, observing that even in German, we have, where ne is missing, we have this ambiguity, a unification protocol would look like protocol 6, where here I have, you see, a feature. So presence of the quantifier, presence of the preposition, appearance of genitive morphology, and definite interpretation. So I have 3, let's say, morphophonological, well, actually, I have 2 syntactic categories, 1 morphological category, and 1 semantic category, okay? In a theory that says that morphology, that syntax makes spaces for morphology, so the positions in the syntax are filled in by morphological, by words, and features, you know, and features are realized by words. And then there is the interpretive component that interprets the features, while the phonological component will realize the words, okay? So these things should go together. And so here, the possibility would be to unify the quantifier. One could say the quantifier is always present, even when we don't hear it. So one could say, even with bare nouns, which are not in our protocol, when I say, ich habe Frauen, ich habe Mädchen gesehen, what I am projecting in the structure is ich habe, silent quantifier, which means an indefinite quantity, von Mädchen, okay? So here, if we look at Italian and French, we just have the presence of the quantifier across the board, the presence of the preposition, which is always going with the quantifier. So if we always have the quantifier, and if the preposition always goes with the quantifier, then the preposition is always present across the board. The genitive morphology, in fact, is the preposition, okay? Because in Italian and French, we don't have genitive case. So we have genitive morphology with the expressed by the preposition when we have noun phrases. And we have the genitive morphology on the clitic, which is the residue of case morphology. Okay? So again, across the board. And then the definite interpretation can be unified for the quantitative clitic by example 5b, right? Because even in German, you can somehow interpret that the lions are 5 of those of the partitive definite set that we have previously introduced in the discourse. So ne, the quantitative clitic is ambiguous. And then the partitive determiner, des livres de Zola, is ambiguous between the partitive clitic, or at least it can be a partitive determiner. Okay, so the only difference is with the quantitative construction, which is indefinite. But actually, if we think of German, Sie haben 5. Well, if the quantitative construction is always has a noun phrase, an overt noun phrase, then we still have to have a 0 here. Okay, here we must have a 0.
Could you repeat that, please, for German?
So it depends. If we want to say that Sie haben 5 getötet, right? Sie haben 5 getötet is a quantitative construction with a 0 noun. We did not
Yes.
make a subcategory of it, okay? But one could say that even the quantitative construction, when it has a 0 noun that can refer to a previous topic in the discourse, can have a definite meaning. So when we say am Donnerstag haben sie 5 getötet, if it is ambiguous between 5 Löwen and 5 von den Löwen, okay, then one could even say that even at this point we have a plus or minus. Okay? Fortunately, I'm not discussing German in this paper, so I don't have to write a paragraph on this. Okay? But if you see, if we put other languages in, then we may even have one more reason to unify things. Okay? And remember that I'm arguing against it, but if you want to argue against that, you have to see the good points in the analysis that I am proposing to throw out. And in fact, maybe at the end of the paper, you may decide that unification is more appropriate. Okay? So I'm not, okay. Okay, good. Now, I have half an hour, but I think this is, it's more important that in a lesson I do things and not just read the paper that you can read on your own, okay? So you see what the, unification approach could gain, unifying all these properties. I have this long footnote with some references because the reviewer said, well, you are building on French, you are just quoting Milner, you are quoting Jackendoff on English, which is 1968. Milner is 78, it's so old, there is a huge literature. If you are quoting, if you are building on French, you should be more fair. And I say, you're right, but there are so many things to quote, okay? So here is a footnote that says there are lots of things to be quoted. Please, understand that I cannot quote everything because I'm not discussing French. Also, this is in a volume that is in a network project on partitivity in general, partitivity in the largest sense. So it was noted that di questa carne, of this meat. By the way, how did Luther translate in German, if you eat of this meat, you will live forever? Do you know that that paragraph of the gospel? Wenn Sie essen, wenn ihr isst von...
In German, wenn Sie Fleisch essen, polite form? Or?
How do they say? Wenn ihr isst?
Wenn ihr dieses Fleisch esst.
Dieses Fleisch. Dieses Fleisch. Das Fleisch. Dieses Fleisch. And not von diesem Fleisch.
No.
No. Okay.
Oh, ja. You can say that, but I would prefer. Wenn
No,
du
no, I'm saying the priest in the altar. You know, the priest says this line every single time you have a mass. You have a. So if you have, do you have a reminiscence?
Das Brot. It's an imperative. Esst dieses Brot, dann werdet ihr.
So dieses Brot, not dieses Fleisch?
Das, no.
Ah, okay.
It's bread.
This is because it has been turned into a vegetarian.
No, it's yeah. Church. Fleisch oder ja Fleisch Jesus in a German church, it's Brot Christi.
I see. Cool. Okay. This is culturally very interesting. Okay, so in Dutch, which is very similar to Plattdeutsch, okay, to Northern German, you can say something like, I don't do all these things. Ich mag nicht wann die Dinge. Ich tue nicht, ich mache nicht von die.
Ich mache nicht von den Dingen.
Mhm.
Oh,
von den Dingen.
Von den Dingen, ja.
Oder ich mache nichts. Ich mache nicht von den Dingen.
Ich mache nichts davon.
No, but that's another thing. No. Non faccio di queste cose. Ich mag von den Dingen nicht. It means I don't do these things. I don't do things of this kind.
I would say.
Or I don't eat biscuits of this kind. Non mangio di questi biscotti.
Ich esse von diesen Keksen nichts oder keine. Ich esse keine von
Keksen. No, nicht. What is important is that you don't have a quantifier like nichts, but just, or lui solo fa di queste cose, meaning things, horrible things like these.
Mhm.
Nur macht diese Sachen.
Okay. Von diesen Sachen, you don't have it.
Can I? There's a word that is solche.
Ah, that's right.
Maybe it's solche Sachen, solche.
Exactly. So the van die construction in Dutch, it's equivalent to solche. Okay, and you don't have this partitive or type partitive construction in German. Okay. Now, the last 20 minutes, I want to present, let's say, the most prominent hypothesis of unification, which has been proposed by Kierkegaard in a paper, 1997, which you can find online. You can download it. So you do some exercise also in research. And it has been revived because, you see, 1997, it's a long time ago. And so I heard something, somebody wants to intervene? No. So it's a long time ago, and it's, it may be suggest the analysis, which is extremely complicated, and I will show you how. So the idea is that there is a queue, okay? So there is a Q which is in D. So I have a D, okay, which is equals to Q, okay? And I have like a DP, okay? Let's call it a DP. And then this D selects a noun phrase, but because it is quantitative in nature, this noun phrase is null, but it has a plus partitive, a plus part interpretation. So this noun is like a silent noun, which means part. And so a noun such as like this, a noun which means part, has a complement which gives me what it is part of, okay? So the partitive PP would be here with a preposition D, a DP with an article, okay? And then the noun phrase. Okay? So this is the structure in 7a. Okay. And then Kierkegaard says, because the whole point is 7c, okay? So he says 7b, which is semantically more similar to 7c than 7a, 7b has minimally the same structure. So it has a DP, so actually with a D, with a Q in D, okay? And then it has this NP, but this NP is not the silent partitive, the silent part, but is the overt noun phrase, girls, ragazze. Okay, so this is 7b, and this is 7a. Okay. Is this okay, even if I'm writing on top? Can you see the? Can you make sense of the structure? Okay, so then maybe I should open up. Okay, I will I should open a white page. Let's open a white page. And let's share whiteboard. There, share the whiteboard. Okay, so 7a is a DP. I just have a head, I don't care about. And inside the D, I have the quantifier, okay? So D or Q is here equivalent. Okay, then the DP in 7a has a noun phrase because all DPs have, can you see it large enough? Okay.
Yeah.
All DPs in 1997 had a complement, so D is a functional head. It may be filled by a number of things, such as the quantifier. So the quantifier is actually a lexical item that is of category D, according to Kierkegaard. The noun phrase selected by this quantifier is a noun. Again, I don't need to have it to make a specifier in it because Oh no, eraser, draw. Okay. Okay. Oh, no, I don't want to draw. I want to write. I want to write, and the pen has disappeared. Okay. Yeah. So this noun is a noun that has just a feature. And the feature of this noun is part of, okay? It's equivalent to a noun that says a large part of, okay? So this noun, because it means part, it selects a specification of this part, okay? It selects a PP, and the PP has the preposition the, and the preposition the selects a new DP with a D, and the DP has a noun phrase, okay? This is an article, and this is ragazze, okay? So this would be 7A in the analysis of Kierkegaard 97, okay? 7B would be very similar with one only difference, that this whole NP is actually just this NP. So we have a DP here, a D, and the noun phrase ragazza. Okay. But you see, the quantifier selects an NP in this construction and in this construction. Okay? I think you can make a screenshot, but I also think that since I'm recording, you will be able to view it. Now, I've never used this, so I don't know what happens to save. Okay, let's save it. And then I want to clean it, whiteboard, more. I don't know how to have a new whiteboard. I may just close it. Okay. You have an idea how to turn this, you know, how to have another space? Okay, I will just clean it, and then I will clean my whiteboard and then design. Make
right click, and then it should be
like this. What should I do?
Maybe click on the mouse with the right click, and then there should be the option eventually.
Okay. So remember 7. Remember 7A. So let's take again 7A with the DP, D, NP, and PP, P, D, and the noun phrase. So the article here moves and adjoins to the preposition here, right? Even in 7A, okay? Now, what does it do in 7C? It moves to the noun because it moves head by head, right? So head movement was already an option in 97, So it moves to the partitive N, which is silent, so we don't know whether it moves to the left or to the right. It doesn't matter. So we have D plus article here. And then this whole N moves to D, obtaining delle ragazze. Okay? Okay, so this is how Kierkegaard 97 derives 7C from 7A. Okay, and it's, do you like it? Do you think it's a good analysis? I mean, what is your reaction to this? It is simple in a sense, okay? But in another sense, it says that delle ragazze is much more complicated than alcune ragazze, because alcune ragazze just has this structure. Okay, so according to Kierkegaard, delle ragazze has a partitivity component with a part noun, which is still there, and has moved to D. Okay, one can actually, the paper that some of you have already read, because it was in a box that was higher up in the course before the measures, and so, you know, then I moved it downstairs to make space to the partitivity lecture by Petra Sleman, which was scheduled on that day when we had it. So there are reasons to refuse this. First of all, it's very complicated. Secondly, delle ragazze often even corresponds to an indefinite, which some people even claim that is a simple noun phrase. So, you know, there are many reasons not to propose this, but the complication is not a good reason if you don't show that you can do something as good in another way. And also it would be nice to show that if this is wrong, it doesn't capture what delle ragazze actually is. And the major criticism that had been done against Kierkegaard 97 was the fact that this le here does not convey the definiteness that you expect here. So delle ragazze maybe is ambiguous between definite and indefinite if we really want to reduce definiteness and specificity. But it's certainly not obligatorily definite, right? Because delle ragazze, especially in French, means, and in Italian as well, just means an indefinite quantity of girls. Okay, so it's not the definite referential already introduced in the discourse kind of interpretation that we have here. Okay, so this is the weakest point, that Kierkegaard assumes something that is inserted here as a definite element, and in fact we know that the D in the complement of the preposition must be definite always. And then it becomes indefinite. So it changes. Usually semantic features don't change, okay? Okay, you are with me. So Zamparelli, 2008, revives this idea, saying, well, but this article, when we have this movement, this article is not the definite article that we also have in English. In fact, we don't have this partitive determiner in English, but it's the generic or kind referring article that has a totally different interpretation. It refers to the kind in Italian, okay? It's what corresponds to zero in English, right? Because there is another story which in semantics, Carson is the semantician who is often quoted, that says that in English, zero is ambiguous between indefinite and kind interpretation. Okay, actually for Carson, this projection, the NP, can be indefinite or referring to kind. So you could say, girls are nice, girls are noisy, I saw girls on the street, okay? And according to Carson, there is no DP, no interpreted DP, it only has a category NP, okay? So Zamparelli says, in Italian, we have a DP to refer to kind, and this DP with overt determiner is in the partitive construction, okay? So, so it's, you know, it revives, it puts Kirke's complicated analysis into question again, okay? And at this point, I've given you both the tools to be able to read this paper and the tools to read the Lingua paper that I wrote with Anna Cardinaletti, which is the subject, which is the topic of the week after Easter, okay? And also has an exercise. Okay, so the lesson ends here. And now I want to know from you, actually I want to have a feedback on a forum. I will set up a forum on this, whether you preferred this, you prefer Zoom or G-meeting or no difference, okay? And then and why, okay? And then the second thing I want to know now, in the last 4 minutes, I will stop recording. So pause record, stop recording.